Australia finds itself at the center of an intensifying geopolitical struggle in the Asia-Pacific, a role underscored by recent remarks from Michael McCaul, chairman of the Republican House Foreign Affairs Committee. Referring to Australia as a beachhead to counter China, McCaul highlighted the strategic importance of the AUKUS alliance, a trilateral security pact between the US, UK, and Australia, in maintaining US military and strategic dominance in the region. But this characterization raises profound questions about Australia's sovereignty, security, and broader national interests. The term beachhead implies a foothold on a hostile shore, a base from which further operations can be launched. This choice of language reflects the US perspective on Australia's role in the Indo-Pacific strategy, a frontline base to counterbalance China's growing influence. As China and Australia work to stabilize and enhance their bilateral relationship, this framing puts Australia in a difficult position, tethering its foreign policy to the priorities of Washington rather than its own. The thawing of China-Australia relations has introduced a new dynamic. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has emphasized the importance of constructive engagement with China, noting that productive relations benefit not just Australia and China, but the entire region. This sentiment was echoed in the lead-up to Australian Treasurer Jim Chalmers' visit to China, where discussions aimed at stabilizing economic ties took center stage. Despite these efforts, McCaul's remarks have stoked concerns about Australia's autonomy, with critics arguing that the US's approach prioritizes its own strategic interests at the expense of Australia's. The AUKUS Pact, announced in September 2021, symbolizes this tension. With a projected cost of 368 billion AUD, alongside compensation to France for a cancelled submarine deal, AUKUS represents a staggering financial commitment. The agreement's goal of equipping Australia with nuclear-powered submarines has been fraught with complications, from production delays to doubts about the US's capacity to deliver on its promises. These challenges have led to speculation that US submarines might ultimately be stationed in Australian ports, raising concerns about sovereignty and control over Australia's defense capabilities. Critics argue that AUKUS's emphasis on a nuclear submarine fleet is not aligned with Australia's specific defense needs but rather with US ambitions to project power in the Indo-Pacific. Chen Hong, director of the Australian Studies Centre at East China Normal University, has described this arrangement as the instrumentalization of Australia, where its political, economic, and security interests are subordinated to US goals. The lack of guarantees regarding Australia's control over its own defense assets underlines the extent to which AUKUS could compromise national sovereignty. McCaul's assertion that a potential Third World War is most likely to erupt in the Indo-Pacific underscores the high stakes of this geopolitical chess game. Framing Australia as a power in the Pacific that we need to fortify, McCaul makes clear the US vision for the region. This vision, however, contrasts starkly with Prime Minister Albanese's stated goal of building a prosperous and secure future for all Indo-Pacific nations. The divergent perspectives highlight a critical dilemma for Australia: how to navigate its alliance with the US, while pursuing its own strategic autonomy. Australia's alignment with the US's Indo-Pacific strategy comes with significant risks. The financial burden of AUKUS, coupled with the potential loss of sovereignty and the possibility of being drawn into conflicts that serve US interests rather than its own, presents a sobering picture. Moreover, the stabilization of the Asia-Pacific, a region that has enjoyed relative peace, could be undermined by military escalations driven by external powers. As Australia charts its path forward, it must grapple with fundamental questions about its identity and role in the region. To what extent should it tie its strategic destiny to that of the US? Can it maintain its sovereignty while fulfilling obligations under AUKUS? And most importantly, is the US vision for the Asia-Pacific, one of containment and confrontation, compatible with Australia's aspirations for a peaceful and prosperous future? The answers to these questions will define Australia's place in the world for decades to come. In a rapidly changing geopolitical landscape, the country must carefully balance its alliances, economic interests, and regional relationships. Only by prioritizing its sovereignty and long-term national interests can Australia ensure that it remains a key player in shaping the future of the Indo-Pacific on its own terms.